All right, all right, all right. Hello, folks. Howdy, friends and neighbors. I'm just getting set up here. Trying to get this chat window a little bit larger. Okay. A lot to talk about. I'm glad you guys are here. Good group in here already. A lot of familiar names, some newbies. For those of you that are new, um, welcome. Hope you guys enjoy it. Throw your questions out there. Hit the question marks. The question helps me pick them out of the chat. This is my live show. I'm Ryan from RGR as well as Rogue Analytics, and I do the Locked On Chiefs podcast. And if you're used to seeing my pre-recorded videos, those look pretty good. This looks like trash most of the time because I live up at about 9,500 feet in the mountains where the billy goats can't walk. So my internet kind of sucks. But we have a good talk around here. Everybody here is real respectful, so everybody try to take it easy on everybody. If you see Raiders haters or whatever, guys that come in here cussing or whatever, just shout it out to me, and I'll get everybody blocked. We had some trouble with that the last couple of streams, so I want to hit that right off the bat. Tonight's beer is from Halfpenny Brewing in Centennial. Good buddy of mine from McPherson brought me that. Golden Ale, and it kind of sets the mood. It's like a little bit hopped up version of an amber, so it's nice, easy drinking tonight. Plenty to go over. Clearly, Darwin and Juan Thornhill are on the top of everybody's mind. That's why I put Darwin on the cover for this particular video, because wanted to give you guys some credit. I know there's a lot of Darwin fans out there, and I thought he did a pretty good job the other night. I saw one question I want to start with. I went through most of my thoughts last night on the live stream, a few more on the Locked On Chiefs podcast today. That should be up here in just a few minutes. So when you guys are done with this, check out the podcast. If you want to support the channel, the super chats are open, the stickers, whatever, and you can always grab one of those shirts that are down in the band below. So check that out as well. And the first question, Bert Rojas asked a little while ago. How are you, Bert? What do you think the Chiefs can do to start quickly against the Patriots? And I'll tell you what I think they should do. There's a number of things that they could do, but that script for me has to contain a lot of double stacks where you have Mecole and Tyreek on the same side of the field. I wouldn't mind seeing them actually stacked, one behind the other, to force the Patriots into giving away what their game plan is for some of those banjo coverages or who's going to take who where. You want to see where McCourty's going, and that's really the person that I'm kind of keeping an eye on in the background. There's going to be plenty, but that's where I'd start. And from there, what you want to do is get an idea if they're going to sit back in zone, run those crossers, get that medium 12 to 15-yard crosser going right away. I'd go play action right off the start and hit one of those, or look to hit one of those, probably with one of the slot receivers rather than Kelce, because I think Kelce's going to get a lot of double. Now, we heard a little bit of commentary at the Pro Bowl last year from how the Patriots attacked it last season. And Mahomes was real funny, actually, on the sideline telling Anthony Lynn about how they doubled Tyreek all game. Okay, well, that's fine. Let's establish that right away, and let's let somebody work off of that double coverage. And again, that goes back to lining somebody else up with him. Get doubles to one side, do whatever motion you want, but end up at the snap with two guys, one next to you, and kind of riding the coattails. Run some trail routes, run some in-breaking stuff that then takes advantage of however that coverage is going to shift on Tyreek, and let him be the decoy that he is. Eventually, that's going to pull the defense down closer to the line of scrimmage, and it's going to allow you to hit something over the top. And I do believe that Tyreek looked 100% to me yesterday, and I do believe he's going to have a couple of opportunities to go deep on this Patriots team. I'm really looking forward to that. That'll be somewhat in the game plan here on the Friday video. So check that out. I already started pulling some of the film. Don't have the coach's film yet, so that's what I'm waiting on. But I'm going to go over some of the plays from Juan Thornhill in particular. We'll look at Tyrann Mathieu, so look out for that. I thought they put a good game together yesterday, and that's what they needed. Andy Anderson, that's a funny idea. I don't know how Darwin feels about being called Baby Yoda. Maybe Little Yoda? I don't know. And I'm glad that you guys keep bringing him up, because I thought for the first time he looked like he belonged on the field to me. He got that call early where he got called for holding. More, it could have been a tripping call, but they called what they called. But the point was his technique was a little bit light. It was a little bit flawed in the way that he went about it. You got to use your shoulders. You can't have extended arms when you're trying to pass block out of the backfield. And that's really, I think, what the limiting factor is for Darwin right now. is can they put him in when they want him to at least have a possibility of having to pass protect. It's one thing if you know you're putting him in a route. It's one thing if you know you might split him out, which I will say that I think that's a good thing no matter who the running back is against the Patriots, is start out in ace or whatever and run it out there so you get 5 wide. And I think that's one way to negate what they're going to do in their secondary. The question is, can the line hold up and give Pat 3.5 seconds to deliver the ball? And I think that's what it may come down to. It depends on the conditions as well. But that's a basis for what I think they have to go about doing. There's a lot to it, and that's just the scratching the surface. But that's why you don't see Darwin in there, at least not to this point, because of the pass protection thing. He cleaned it up, and he did make another block on Max Crosby. He made another block on an interior guy coming through as well. And so I thought that was good. And that's progress even within the game, let alone for a rookie this season. So I think that's great. I thought he ran well. I thought he showed you that little leap. I thought really showed you some of the dynamicism he brings. But I was more impressed with the stuff where he put his shoulder down. And for a small guy to seek contact and not shy away from it when you're trying to grind out a game, I thought that was great. You saw a lot of what I love in a football game with a back running behind a fullback, attacking the line of scrimmage and making contact with linebackers, wearing out that defense. And you saw soon after they started running the ball with consistency that those Raiders just kind of quit. You know, it's difficult, especially when you're down, to keep your enthusiasm up when you're just getting knocked around by a run game that really doesn't care if it makes 3 yards or 8 yards, because as long as they keep turning onto first downs, that's really the thing. So that's where they're at. Steven Skidmore, the beer of the night, half penny, golden ale. Looks pretty good to me, but tastes good too. Let's see who's next. As I go down, remember, for everybody who's new, hit your question marks at the beginning of your question, and it will help me find them. And you know I need all the help that I can get. Let's see. Hey, Coach Kyle, I'm glad you made it live. I know it doesn't look that good, but it'll be lots of questions, and we'll get into tons of subjects, so welcome. Dwight Raleigh, is this Chiefs defense improving, or was the Raiders offense that bad? To be quite honest, it's a bit of both. The Raiders' pass offense is not that good. You saw that their best receiver, in my opinion, is Tyrell Williams, and they didn't get him involved. They weren't able to. Now, that's partially credit to the DBs, and I do give them that credit, but it's also partially due to the fact that Carr just isn't able to hit on timing. There are narrow windows there. Ward played well last night. I thought the narrow, particularly on Williams when Ward was on him, was pretty narrow. Still doesn't mean you couldn't throw in passes. It's partially on the quarterback as well, and I think that's important to remember. But that Raiders receiver group made the Chiefs DBs look good, but that's not all there is to it. That tight end group, that's going to be a tough matchup for the Chiefs in the future. They have a deep group at tight end and a very athletic one. Foster Moreau was my top tight end, not top. He was my top available tight end that Chiefs would have had an opportunity to get had they kept their first round pick, and definitely in the second. Below Hawkinson and Fant, of course, but he was the first available, and I think he really fits. And I think he's starting to show what he's able to do. I'd love to see him in the Chiefs offense, but obviously that's not in the cards. Waller was a surprise to me. I didn't have him as a guy who could bounce back and actually perform this well. I thought he'd be solid, but I didn't think he'd be that bigger performer. So that, and then Carrier made himself known, more so than I expected. Got away from Reggie, although Reggie recovered on that play pretty well. And then later did his damage. So they have 3 solid tight ends on that Raiders team now, and John Gruden's going to use them going forward. He's going to try to pick on the Chiefs linebackers in the future. So just keep that in the back of your mind as the offseason comes around, that's something that is going to be an issue. You got to upgrade the linebackers. As much as I like one of them, the other 2 are iffy, but I think they're all playing as a group better. So I'm sure there'll be questions about that. We'll keep going. Scott Meza, can you tell that the defense has started to gel after 13 weeks? I think you can, and I think the other guy that we have to talk about is Juan Thornhill, and I think he is really what's lighting it all up. Yes, it's a transition to the 4-3. Now, somebody made a comment on the trends video that I did last week about how they didn't see the difference and they thought that Spags ran 4-3 base all the time. It's not that he runs 4-3 base. You can't look at the lineman to determine whether it's a nickel or a 4-3 base. You have to look at the linebackers, because one linebacker will go off and you'll bring in either safety or nickel corner when they go to the nickel. So you can't rely on the front four. They're always going to be four in this particular defense. But I thought starting in the nickel last night was, again, a bit of an assumption, because they know that Jacobs in the run game was going to be the Raiders' really their only hope, and specifically their focus. I think they took a gamble coming out nickel, expecting the Raiders to go away from that tendency, knowing that they could come back to it, which is exactly what happened. But it was a risk, and you noticed that they had Sorensen out there the first two plays, gave up some yardage. Reggie comes in on the third play, and all of a sudden you get a stop. And that's really what it comes down to. And I looked at the snaps earlier, and a minimum, Reggie played quite a bit, got, I think, 45% of the defensive snaps. You saw Saunders in there a lot. Pennell got a lot. Everybody hit their threshold that I was telling you guys about last week. 20 reps. 20 reps in the defense for each of those three guys, Saunders, Pennell, Ragland, and you're going to be decent against the run. Not great. They still weren't great, but they were better. And I think that's important. And I think, Scott, that's what's bringing it all together. What Thornhill does is then puts the icing on top, and what Thornhill being competent and his teammates having confidence in him as a rookie. Remember, everybody else is older. I think that's what you're seeing in the way Tyrann Mathieu can play. I think Juan Thornhill's knowledge coming along and being steadier at the back end is letting Tyrann Mathieu take more chances. I think it's letting Mathieu play more like he wants to play, and I do believe that's a sign of the whole defense gelling together. So that's a very good point. Dwight Raleigh. Oh, I answered that one. Sorry. Joshua Rue, welcome, Joshua. I don't remember answering one of your questions before. Are you concerned with Mahomes' struggles the last couple of games? I mean, I am in a systemic sense. I'm more concerned about the pressure that he's having to deal with. Not just that he has to scramble, but that now he's starting to scramble a little bit when he doesn't have to. And I think that's a reaction to how much pressure he's getting, particularly up the middle. Very, very frustrated with the play of the left guard and the center right now. I have been for a couple of weeks, but I do think that's a concern. Also, I do feel like Mahomes has been less than accurate the last few weeks. And I tried to let it ride and see if it was a function of the altitude against the Chargers. But it was there last night, too. And you could say that was the weather and the cold in particular. Maybe the ball was wet, but there was a couple that he just drastically missed. And then the wind carried several others. I think that interception that they ended up overturning on the interference call, I do believe that was mostly wind. So that's where I'm at. So I'm not going to be too concerned about him. It's got to pull all together. This is it. And I don't have any concerns that they won't be ready to go against the Patriots. I think they understand how important it is. Morbian 13. Yeah, you are a Raider hater. I'm sorry. I said that wrong before. I meant Raider fans, because they keep coming in here and coming in here. Jordan White, I see your question, man. You don't have to hit 17,000. I'm just behind. I got to let everybody get their questions in. I'm getting there. And I'll answer yours next. Will Darwin Thompson start? No. Darwin Thompson will not start this season unless everybody's hurt. And that's okay. Don't let that bother you. I think what he earned last night is more reps. And especially if Darryl is hurt enough not to go. Luckily, Andy Reid said today that it is the hamstring. It's not a structural thing. He didn't say knee, which is what I was certainly concerned about. And that's really the bigger issue. So I'm not sure I expect him. I don't know what's going on with Damien. We should have an update on Wednesday, and I'll let you guys know that on the podcast for sure. So if you don't have Williams and you're down to Shady and Darwin, the problem is you don't have any power there. Despite what Darwin showed you inside last night, that's not a power back. That's a small back making the most of what he's got. So I do expect them to bring up Elijah McGuire if that's what happens, and neither of the Williamses are ready to go. But I don't think you start the rookie. I think what you'll see, especially if it's not a Williams or Williams show with Shady, you're going to see Darwin a lot earlier, and you're going to see him more. And I think that's good. I am still a little bit concerned, especially against a stunting front like the Patriots, about letting him pass protect. So I want to say that you bring him in, he's either running the ball or running a route is my preference. I don't know what Andy will do, because sometimes Andy's stubborn and he just wants them to do what they're supposed to do. So there, gotcha, Jordan. Thanks for your patience. Adam Daughtry, can we run the ball on first down and not wait until third? I'm fine with that. Andy doesn't do it because he doesn't want to be predictable, and he feels that first down is, for most teams, a running down, and it is. And so that's why he bucks the trend. And I can understand where he's coming from, but I'd rather them try and only get 2 or 3 yards. At least they're in positive down in distance, and they're not, 2nd and 10 again. I'd rather do that than have an incompletion. So yes, I would like them to. I just don't know if we're going to see that, bud. Christopher Skidmore, can Darwin make a big impact Sunday against them? He can make an impact. We'll have to see how many touches he gets, but yeah, there's no reason not to. Small backs do it all the time. In fact, James White of the Patriots is one of those guys that is on the small side that has a big impact. I want to see Darwin get the ball on a pass in the open field, because all of these running backs are good catching the ball and running routes, and I think that should continue with him. From what I saw in college, I think that could be a good option for him. So yes, I hope that they do. Stephen Ellers, how are you? In your opinion, what's the most important thing in each phase of the game needs to accomplish to beat the Patriots? Thanks. For the defense, it's third down. What you saw last season was them destroying the Chiefs defense on third down. You have to be able to be effective, and I think that they can be. I think they've shown the last few weeks that they can be on first and second. And then when you get yourself in a favorable position on third and long, third and even medium, you have to perform. And that's not necessarily shutting down receivers or anything. It's a combination. And I feel like from what I saw against the Texans, I feel like there's room there to pressure. I think they have to be a little exotic with it, but it's really got to come down to, is Frank healthy? Because Frank can get it done on his own. And if not, it's going to be Tano and Chris Jones on the outside. And that's great, but that doesn't leave you pass rushers on the inside. And I think Colin Saunders is probably the best of the interior pass rushers. He will be very good at that, but he's not there yet as a rookie. So that means I want to send linebackers at the A-gaps. It's real simple. You need somebody in Tom Brady's face. That's when he's least effective, is when he has pressure right at him on the inside. So that's key. The good thing is they have Daly. Coach Daly is how the Pats have done it in the past. It's how they got to this position where they're good at giving you a mush rush or giving you guys that aren't premier pass rushers to get the job done. So I expect to see that. I hope that they go a little bit of NASCAR, because even when you have James White or Sony Michel, they don't like to run the draw that much. I think their draw percentage is down by I want to say 8% this year from the stats that I looked at. So I think that's less of a counter that they can throw at you. So I want to see them stand a few guys up, and I want to see them play some cat and mouse with where the pressure comes from. But I think your safeties are playing well enough that I don't think you want to be sending them very often. Maybe on a specific down and distance if you get the look that you're really looking for. But I want to see them make more with the front four plus a linebacker. Got Joshua's Chiefs fan, Chris in Oregon. Welcome, Chris. I know it's tough living out there. I'm thinking Andy has some plays for the Pats that he hasn't shown yet. I agree with you. I actually thought that he'd show a few, something that he didn't want to run against the Pats. I thought he'd throw some in against the Raiders, so that the Patriots had to do some extra film study on whatever the new wrinkles were. But he went really vanilla. He went the opposite of that, and I think he is holding plays for this particular matchup. And here's the really interesting thing. If the Chiefs beat the Patriots this game, that flip-flops the AFC East and puts the Patriots into the 5th slot. The Chiefs are currently in the 4th slot in the playoffs, which means the Patriots would come to Arrowhead if everything ended after that game. Definitely a precursor of a chance to get the Patriots back in Arrowhead, where I think you stand the best chance of spanking them, because I just don't trust them in the playoffs. They have a tendency to win even when they're not supposed to. Let's see. Jeff, will we play Sunday with only McCoy, Thompson, and Sausage in the backfield? I don't think so. That may be the only players that they use. That could be true, Jeff. But I do think that they'll activate McGuire and bring him up if they can't get one of the Williamses at least available. Not to start, but to be available. And I'd love to see what we saw at the end of the game where Anthony was actually in there blocking. And there was one, I think it wasn't a toss, but it was a stretch to the opposite side. But they used Anthony as the motion that really threw the defense off. They brought him into the H role, and that's really where Anthony can make a big impact. Sherm at the H is one of my favorite things. Sorry, I'm talking too fast. Needed a sip. Cheers to you guys. Let's see. Dan Durham. Do you think, since Andy always works his magic early, that teams figure him out and that he is sandbagging more than usual on plays and personnel? Not so much on personnel, but on plays, yes. I think he can pull out more of the trickster stuff, more of the creative things, because he hasn't been that much. He hasn't used the jet sweep that much this year. He hasn't used the little push passes in the backfield very much this year. And I think he has to show that a little bit, because that, again, pulls the defense up. And to beat the secondary that the Patriots have, which is one of the best secondaries in the league, pulling them up really helps for what you can do play action-wise, what you can do RPO-wise, and how many shots you can get behind them. And that's really something that has been in short supply. They did a very good job on Tyreek Hill last year, so they have to fix that. Good question, Dan. Nathan Roth, how are you? Are you worried about Mahomes losing his aggressive play style since he has been playing really careful lately? I'm not worried about it. I actually feel pretty good about it, because last night was an apparition. He should have had probably 250, maybe 300 yards. The defense did a great job getting him the ball with short fields, so there just wasn't that much yardage to pick up. It wasn't because he was playing necessarily tentatively. I think what he is doing a better job of is he's taking what the defense gives him, and he's not pushing it into places that are either incompletes or possible interceptions. He's done a very good job with that so far, and I hope that he can continue. Good question, Nathan. Pono Kwai, mahalo. Thanks for the question, bud. When are you going to learn some Pidgin English? Man, I've had folks try. In fact, my wife's friend is here from Kailua right now. She came for Thanksgiving and schooling me a little bit on some of the local customs there. Supposedly, I need to get out to Maui next time, so I will try to do that, man. I'll look you up. And he needs to show the defense some motivational support, like Belichick does. That's why they play hard for him. It is. But players play hard for Andy too, because they love him, because he's a coach's coach. He doesn't ride them hard. He's not. I mean, he's a player's coach as much as a coach's coach as well. So it's a different kind of motivation, but it is there. But I agree. I'd like to see them really spark up and get fired up for this game in particular. Gary Holland, you're back. What's up, buddy? Are you worried about the guard play and the O-line against the Pats defense? Yes. I particularly am worried about what the kind of stunts they're going to be running at the A-gaps, whether it's Ryder or Wiley in particular. LDT's had his share of problems with some of the interior stunts as well. So, yeah, it's all a question mark to me. And if I'm the Patriots, that's exactly where I'm attacking too. The only problem for them is that they may be a little bit scared of letting Patrick out of the pocket, and I can't blame them for that. I think what he showed you the other night is that he's fully healed. That knee shouldn't be an issue any longer. So while I wouldn't run any sneaks with him, and I had some people call me out on Twitter because of it, no, I would not run sneaks with Patrick Mahomes. The chance of re-injury on a dislocated kneecap is significant. Just because it's healed doesn't mean it won't happen again. So I would never take that chance this season. In years to come, sure. But I still feel like off tackle is the best way to attack a short yardage situation with this particular offensive line, because running anywhere in between the guards is risky at best. I still think Wisniewski should be starting at center, and I don't think that that's going to happen. I just feel like Andy's going to ride with his guys until he's forced not to. So that's the way that's going to go down. Let's see. Your thoughts on the D-line. Should Chris Jones be a captain next game? Scott, captain, I honestly don't know, because the captain thing affects different players differently. Some it really motivates, and some it's not that big of a deal. So my question would be, is how does Chris Jones react to being the captain? And if so, then yeah, I would. They need a big game out of him. They need to move him around a little bit. I think that they play like they did yesterday, which was not over the top run defense. They still played a lot of nickel. I'll be looking at the count once I get the all 22. But I feel like they still have to play enough base to control Sony Michel. I think Burkhead should be good to go. I thought he played yesterday. I'm not 100%. But they got to control their backs. I think that's the strength right now. I mean, you take out Edelman and and you control the Patriots running game, they can be beaten. I think that was proven yesterday. Speaking of Edelman, we'll have to talk about him later because you got to do some creative stuff with him. He really is the focus of that offense, and I feel like the outside guys can probably stop Sanu enough to be okay. It's going to be about the inside guys and what they can do on Edelman. Good question. Aaron Morrow, how are you, pal? What's the story on Darryl? I thought I saw something snap in his knee. I was worried about an ACL. That non-contact ACL is always a worry when you see a running back like that. But on replay, it looked like he grabbed right at the hamstring. Andy Reid said today that it was a hamstring issue, so I'm feeling pretty comfortable with that. Question is just how severe of it is. If it's a really severe tear, that might put him out to the playoffs. You just never know. I don't believe, when I did his scouting for the draft, I don't think he's had hamstring issues in the past. So that's one of two things. Either it'll heal up because it's never been stressed to that point, or it got stressed to the point where it really snapped. He was positive on Twitter. Darryl was. He put something out that he's going to be all right, and I certainly hope that that's true. So we're just have to wait and find out. Larry Heimer, if we double team Edelman next week, who do we use, and who covers Sanu? You're not going to change for Sanu. What they're going to do is let Breeland and Ward manhandle the outsides, and I think that's okay. I like Sanu. He's a good receiver, but he's not an epic threat. If it's me, I walk in and I don't put Sorensen on him, but I put Fenton in there, maybe Fuller, but I prefer Fenton to rough him up at the line. Get in there and press the snot out of him. Don't let him get free releases. And I'd bracket him with Tyrann Mathieu, to tell you the truth, because the ball's going to go to Edelman 10, 12, 14 times maybe. So I would definitely bracket him. I would let him get off, and I'd let Tyrann do his thing behind him as the top bracket on that. And then everybody else is going to have to single up unless they go dime. And I don't think they're going to be able to go dime much. I think it's going to be mostly nickel and base. Good question, Larry. Let's see. Answered that one, Drew. Nathan Roth, any news on Clark Williams and Fenton's injuries? Nothing on Clark or Fenton yet. We'll see if anything leaks out tomorrow, but we'll definitely have an update on Wednesday. And I'll have that for you for the Thursday podcast that comes out Wednesday night. Mike Hall, do the Chiefs upgrade the interior offensive line in the offseason? Absolutely. Maybe a couple of times. I haven't started to look at the interior class. I don't know what's going to be there, but it's going to be a day 3 pick most likely, or possibly a free agent kind of thing. Chiefs fan in Oregon. Should Pat throw more from under center and mix in the run to keep the D honest? I don't have a problem with that at all. Quite frankly, I'd like to see him do a little pistol work with some RPOs. I think that would really work well against this particular defense. Mimic some of the things that Lamar Jackson's had some success with, and I think Pat's moving well enough that you don't have to worry about that. But yeah, so particularly play action and handing the ball off from the under center is a good thing. Metal Rocker X, hey pal, glad you're here. My first question is, how impressed were you of the D overall? And I was personally disappointed in how the front seven wasn't able to get to Carr a lot. Yeah, I think overall they're improving. I think they're coming together as a unit. But yeah, I expected more output against Miller in particular, and I don't think he gave up but 4 pressures. So Chiefs as a team put up 19 pressures, which is fair, but not anywhere near their tops. And here's the thing that bothered me the most about the pass rush is Tano Passanio was your leading pressure getter, more so than Chris Jones. I want to see more of that. They got to collapse the pocket. And the nice thing about Tano is he's had success going in on the guards as well, getting into the B gap in particular, but I think he can get to the A gap too. And so when I was talking about going NASCAR or changing up the lineup, that's one thing is I'd like to see Tano come into the tackle spot on passing downs and let him try to get into Brady's face. He's had a lot of good play, getting penetration against the run and getting some pass rush. So I think Tano's earned the right to attack and be used a little bit more. Good question, Rocker. Bono, what's up, buddy? Why doesn't Andy do more quick slants with Tyreek and Mecole? I honestly don't know. He doesn't run the slant very much at all. The slant's Sammy Watkins' best route, period. He uses his body. He's huge. He can accelerate. It's a great route. It's risky, especially good corners can jump that route, and I think that's probably the bulk of it. Is it's just not the safest. I think it's risk versus reward. Slants in general, especially against aggressive teams, aren't going to go for a big distance unless somebody utterly blows a tackle. So I think that's what it is. I think Andy's a little risk averse there. Scott Mason, can the NFL at a late game change to Sunday night? They can, but they would announce it probably by tomorrow, I think is when they usually do that. There's an account on Twitter called NFL Operations. It'll be there if it happens. Let's see. Big test. Hype Ed. Can the offense sustain success in the playoffs without a featured running back? Do you believe the RB by committee? I don't generally like to see it, and neither does Andy, actually. Andy likes to stay with one guy and mix in some other guys. He doesn't like the true committee. But if you have to, you have to. And the good thing is everybody's good at, on this roster, everybody's good at catching passes. And everybody has their different strengths. Darryl can run inside well. Darryl can hit that. Darryl's a zone runner. He can get a little bit discombobulated, I think, by some of the pulls and the power stuff. So if you just run zone, I think Darryl's at home, personally. Shady can do it all. I think Damian can probably do a little more power than Darryl, but Damian's good at with zone blocking as well. So I just rotate them through. I'd rather see them fresh and kind of adapt to each other than Andy try to really push any one, because honestly, they've all proven to be a little bit frail. Anita Squire, glad you're here. Both Williamses are out, so he has to play Sunday. No one game planning for a run game from us. That's absolutely true. And I think, unfortunately, that means Andy Reid isn't either. I just don't think he's going to feature the run. I'd love it if he did, but he's never listened to me yet. So, Drew Bishop, thanks for the donation, pal. I appreciate it. I didn't see a question from you, though, so circle back. I'm still scrolling, and I'm trying to get caught up. Bert Rojas, started it all with you. Here we go. With Darryl hurt, if he's out next week, will his repetitions help Darwin Thompson? Some. It definitely will, but I think you're going to see more Shady, and I think Coach Reid's been saving Shady for this particular game. And there's always a possibility that Damian returns. I don't think so, because I think his rib cartilage injury is like a 3 to 4 week injury, but we don't know the details yet. So we'll have to see what happens on Wednesday. We'll know who practices, and that'll give us a good indication. Drew Bishop, is the O-line a reason for concern? Yes. I feel like the offense hasn't performed like it did last year because of the center and left guard. You're absolutely right. And can this be cleaned up and bolstered in time for the playoffs? Yes. You're not going to really get another guard, but you have a center on this roster right now in Wisniewski that I think can outplay the current center. Wiz can also play guard if he has to, and you still have Cam. Cam Irving, I know everybody's down on him, and he is overmatched at tackle quite often, but Cam is a decent guard. If you want to get screen game, pull game, those are the things Cam's really good at. Standing back and forming a pocket is not Cam's thing, but he's better in a phone booth than he is out on the edge by himself. So definitely there are options if you want to switch it out. Right now, I'd still lean towards Wiley over Cam, but, that's just personal preference, really. I don't know that there's hard numbers to say that one way or another. Good question, Drew. Natalie, hello to Louisville. Hope you guys are doing good. Have a bourbon for me. Pona, where do we go with running back with Darryl being out and Damian sitting out again? Darwin's going to get more. It's going to be a lot of Shady, and they may pull up McGuire, who they signed last week from the practice squad. So I won't be surprised at a signing here tomorrow before the practice week starts. Nathan Roth, is it true the Patriots had a bad case of the flu bug going around? Yes, they actually, here's an interesting story. They took 2 planes to Houston. They had one plane for the healthy Patriots players, and they had one plane for the sick players because they didn't want it to continue to spread. That's how sick the Patriots were. So, yeah, that's a significant thing. You can put part of that loss on that fact. I don't think you can put it all, but it is a factor. I will give you that. So look for them to be very, very interested in rebounding and pretty pissed off that they dropped it because of illness or what they may feel was illness. So yeah, let's keep an eye out for what they're doing. Gary, why hasn't Reed done more end arounds and jet sweeps this year and trick plays? That's my question too. And like I said, I think he overshot and he put way too much out there too early last season, especially with the little push passes in the backfield and the jet sweep action and some of those things. Even the little inside pitches to Kelce, the wham blocks turned pitches. I think those are all things that are on the table for the playoffs. And that means they might not even use them this week against the Patriots. They may be saving them for the playoffs themselves. I don't know. Let's see. Chiefs fan in Oregon. Thinking Spags has some tricks for the Pats. I know that he does. I think he's confident. And you got to remember, years back, when the Patriots were undefeated, the one defense that beat them was run by Spags. So there's always hope. Jerry Pratt, thanks for your donation. I appreciate it. Your question is, it seems every time that we need Clark for the most upcoming game, he gets hurt. Or is it just me? I think it's not every time, but it is a continual thing. And I think it's a single injury that keeps getting re-aggravated, to tell you the truth. Now, I don't know how it happened. From my understanding, it happened in camp. I saw him pretty up close when I was at camp, and he looked okay. So I don't know exactly when it was. It might have been pretty late in camp. And when that happens, when you get injured so close to the regular season, it makes it really hard to get going and to stay going. And that's when things like this kind of snowball and keep coming back because you just don't have the time to take off. So that's my guess, but it's only a guess. I don't have any specifics. But we'll see if he can come back. We'll see what this shoulder injury is. They definitely need him. So there were times when I thought he looked okay, and there were also times where I thought he looked hurt. So we'll see what happens, and I'll give you an update later in the week, Jerry. Thanks for the donation. Andy Anderson, am I the only one that felt Chris Jones needs some love for his play yesterday? No, I won't say that. I think he does deserve some credit. I think he was a force inside. I think that he still has room to improve, though. There were plays where he didn't get much push at all. And I don't know what the hit or miss part of it is. I don't know if it's conditioning. In general, the defense looks like their conditioning is a little light to me sometimes. Now, maybe that's because I'm an old strength conditioning coach and I want these guys able to perform, 100 snaps a game. But there are times when they look winded to me, and I think that's probably part of it with Chris. So remember, he missed a lot of the offseason, and I think he's playing a little bit light, but I like that because I think him at end is a big plus. When you can go that big front and still get pressure, I think that's great for this team. Mo Money, is Kendall Fuller 100% or is he still injured? Any news on Fenton? I have no news on Fenton, Money. And I think Kendall is 90-ish. I think he played 17 snaps yesterday. Hang on, I can pull that up and check. I thought Kendall looked like he was getting in the groove, but definitely knocking some rust off. So, yeah, he played 17 snaps yesterday, 28% of the defense. So it was by no means a full slate for him. I think you'll see that more. Curtis Douglas, stop the run, double Edelman, and our D should be able to control the Pats offense. Yeah, I think that's really it. I think you'll have some shots and you'll give up points. It is Tom Brady. But those are the two big things. If you can slow the run, I don't think you can ever stop it because this defense just isn't that good at it. But Edelman's the key. You can keep him from hurting you. He's going to make first downs. He's going to make catches. He's just too quick. The Chiefs don't have anyone on this roster besides Tyreek Hill that can actually change direction as fast as Julian Edelman. That's his big thing. Those pivot routes are killer, especially down the stretch. So, yeah, Curtis, that's my plan. I'll have more on that on the Friday show. Ooh, I'm way behind on questions. Okay, hold on. Let's see. Okay, I got Jerry's. Good. Okay, I got Aaron's. Aaron, you said you were a big Star Wars fan, which I am too. Which movie is your favorite? Mine is easy. It's Empire Strikes Back. No questions. Easily the best. I have hopes for the next one, but I'm not going to hold my breath. Adam Roach, can the Chiefs beat the Patriots? Yes. They have to play pretty dang well, and they have to play better than they did the last time when they did beat the Ravens. Sorry, did I say Patriots? Adam's asking about the Ravens. But yes, they can beat them. I think it was Willie Snead that went off on them. I think Ward and Breland are playing better than they did then. So, yeah, I do think it's possible for sure. Deldrick Smith, how are you, man? Do you think that there are too many weapons, or just give the ball to one person and let them eat? That's not what Andy does. I would be more apt to do that, particularly in the run game. But Andy likes to feed everybody. Marcellus Williams, where do the Chiefs match up against the AFC playoff picture? Right now, they're in the 4th seed, which means they will host a wild card game. The Bills are one game, is it one game or half a game behind the Patriots? If the Chiefs beat the Patriots and the Bills win, they become the 1 seed. No, they become the 2 seed, but they take the AFC East, and the Patriots fall to the 5th seed, which means they're coming to Kansas City if everything ends that way. So, yeah, that's where they're at right now. Damian McKinnis, do you think McGuire – do they bring up McGuire from the practice squad? I think that's like a break glass kind of situation. I think they will if they have to. But if they get one of the Williams, they'll roll with LaShawn Thompson and one of the Williams and be safe. Other than that, yeah, I think they will. Anita Squire, do you think Pennell has made a huge difference? Seems to me the defense plays better with Pennell and Ragland and Hitchens playing together. I absolutely agree with you, especially early. Now, in the nickel downs, maybe not. If it's 3rd and long, Ragland and Pennell are not going to get you the big plays that you need. But 1st and 2nd, they definitely do. And what I showed in last week's analytics trends is when those guys play at least 20 snaps, as well as Colin Saunders, that's when the Chiefs are good against the run. That's the key. You have to have those guys on the field for a good amount of snaps. Now, that varies by how many defensive plays they get in a given game, but it is important. Good question, Anita. Casey K, how are you, bud? Why doesn't Warren ever turn his head around? I don't know. That's my big thing is everybody keeps calling him a Pro Bowl corner, and he has Pro Bowl aspects. He's doing very well in completion percentage. He's in the top 20 in the league in allowing completion percentage. He's only got 4 PBUs. He doesn't turn his head around, and quite frankly, he's been helped out by a couple of drops where he would have given up a ton of yardage, and he's already given up the most yardage of any DB on this roster. So there are definitely some holes in his game still, but I do feel he's progressing. He's a good young player, and I think he will eventually be a very solid number 2 corner. I just don't see him as a number 1, and I haven't seen anything change my mind on that. But I think he's the best that they have right now, and I do feel he's still making improvements as a young guy. So good for him. Thanks for the donation, Casey. Coach Kyle, do you think we can win out and make it to that 3rd seed? I don't know. They get past the Patriots, then I think it's on. Yeah. We'll see what happens after this week. Aaron Morrow, what rookie will make the biggest impact from here on out? We saw a lot of good things from several of them, but my guess is Thornhill. He seems to be playing faster and faster. I agree with you, but I will say this. I think Colin Saunders is starting to put it together too. He had a couple of really nice plays. And maybe they team up. Maybe it's a pressure that causes a pick for Thornhill. I'm not sure. But those are the 2 on defense. And, man, you never know. I don't know what's going on with Mecole. He didn't even get targeted against the Raiders. And you saw what he could do with that game where he had 1 target. I don't know if they're saving some of him or they've just been trying to take him away. I didn't see them making a concerted effort to take Mecole away from the Chargers. I'll look at the 22 from the Raiders, and we'll see if it's there. But, yeah, I'm very, very interested. I think Mecole could be very explosive. And if you have Tyreek and you have Mecole, maybe that's the way you go. If they're going to double Tyreek, you go at Mecole all day long because he can get behind that defense no matter who the defense is. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. Steven Ellers, who do you think the Chiefs' offensive defensive players of the game will be against the Patriots? I think it's going to be Mahomes, and I'm going to say Tyrann. I think Tyrann's on a roll, and I think he's a guy that's going to be in a position to be close to Edelman and have his chances to take some balls away. Mike Hall, can the Chiefs scheme the defense to make the run defense look better? They can, but it's still about individual assignments and making sure that you carry out your role. And I think that's where some of the breakdowns still are, definitely. But again, if you play the right personnel, it goes a very long way towards keeping it contained so it isn't killing you. Scott Mason, can the Chiefs play the Patriots without penalties like yesterday? Probably not. I mean, that's how rare it is to not have any penalties in the game. And there was that one that was offsetting and all that kind of stuff. My guess is they have a few, but I feel like they're playing cleaner now. And if they can do that, I think it helps them quite a bit. Nathan Roth, is Darwin really that bad at pass blocking? He's not good, but it's also some of his size, and it's definitely a lot of experience. So the more that he plays, the better he'll get. But yeah, he's not great, and that's honestly why he doesn't play that much. That's not anything against Darwin. That's the way Andy is. If you can't pass protect and be very good at it, he's not going to take a chance with Mahomes. So that's just the way that it's going to roll. Ken Wood, thanks for your donation. Appreciate it. Can Darwin Thompson be a closer running back with his size? That's a good question. As it rolls on, like for an entire season, to be a guy that puts games away, that becomes very difficult. It's a lot of pounding because the defense knows it's coming. So they'll load up on you on the box. They'll send linebackers, and that's a lot of impacts. So that sometimes makes it harder on the smaller backs. We've seen some small guys get into that situation and not fare so well. So I'm not going to go out on a limb and say no, but I think it does make it a little bit tougher for him. Carliners, to me, it looks like Frank Clark needs to get bigger or stronger. What are your thoughts? I think it's all injury. He's plenty strong from what I saw in his film in Seattle. I think the nerve issue has taken away some of his strength. And I think the ongoing issue is about functional strength. And I think that's what's bothering him. It probably won't get fixed this season. I don't think it can. But in off season to get healed up, to get it rehabbed, I think you're going to be okay. And I think the investment is still safe at this point for the long term. Scott Meza, is Shady and Thompson the starters Sunday? I'm sure Shady is. Thompson won't be a starter. You're only going to start one running back with Andy anyway. Aaron Amaro, when do you see Watts play over Sorensen, or can anyone else overtake the guy? I still don't like putting him in there pass coverage in 5 to 7 yards. And I completely agree with you. He did a couple of nice things in the box yesterday. He made a couple of really bad plays in coverage. He made a couple where he was in the right spot and made a nice play. I think it's hit or miss. Watts is not going to play over Sorensen anytime soon. The staff loves him. He is the third safety. I don't think that's going to change. Marcellus, what do you do you think that Mecole Hardman, do you think M. Hardman, Juan Thornhill, or Darwin Thompson? I'm not sure what you mean there, Marcellus. I didn't get the question understanding. Sorry, bud. I mess up your name every time. Versace. That's what I'm going with today. I don't know. Ping me. Did you notice anything with Fuller's return, positive or negative? Thanks. Honestly, I have in my notes right here that I need to check on Fuller for a couple of things. I thought I saw him line up at safety a couple of times, and I don't hate that move, especially if you feel like you're going to run Mathieu down to cover somebody like an Edelman. Fuller playing over the top is okay with me because he's best in zone anyway. And he understands defenses. He understands what he's seeing. So I can get down with that. I'm not sure. That was just one snap that I thought I saw that, but I'm going to double check. Actually, I lied. I can check right now because I have his snaps from Pro Football Focus. 1 second. Let me look at that. And if he did, I think that's a really interesting development because that's another case of versatility. And yes, according to Pro Football Focus, I'm right. He did play at least one down yesterday at free safety, and that's significant. I think that's really good. So I don't know if that was just like a simple switch. Sometimes they do that where you have an A/B read and it's about positioning, but I wouldn't mind seeing that as well because I think, again, I think the safeties are protecting the corners overall. And if you can continue to do that, I think you get better play out of everyone. Good question. Nathan Roth, what are your thoughts on the 2 reviewed pass interference penalties? I'm surprised they got any of them to go their way. I'm not going to hold my breath. I'm just going to say thank you. Gary Holland, when is Okafor coming back and will he be effective? He played a good, I want to say he played 40 snaps last night. So I think that was, again, like Fuller, was a rust game, getting back in the flow of things. I think he'll be back to normal here against the Patriots. Christopher Skidmore, if Carr can't go Sunday, we see more Chris on the end with Okafor and K-pass. Yes, absolutely. I think that's the best. I think that means Saunders plays more on pass downs. Pennell plays in the base with Noddy. I think that's great. I'm more than comfortable with that. Scott Macy, do you think that it will be Ravens versus Chiefs for the AFC Championship? Right now, that's the way that I would lean. And I'm strangely comfortable with that. Experience sells, and I know the Ravens are playing much better than they did when the Chiefs saw them early in the season, but I still feel like the Chiefs have the ability to chase down Lamar Jackson better than most teams. The thing that's been biting the Chiefs is that their linebackers are built for speed, built for coverage, not built to stop Ingram in the run game, right? Well, that's fine. You play Reggie in the middle and you let everybody else run. I feel like the Chiefs are in better position than most teams. I'm not saying that they can stop Lamar Jackson. Nobody can. But I do feel like they're in a good position to give it a run. Metal Rocker, I saw in your video before the game that you said something about the Chiefs putting the AFC on notice. What kind of notice were you referring to? That despite not being able to stop the run, that they can still beat anybody and that they can take their conference, their division when they need to. That's really what I was talking about. I was looking for a statement game against the Raiders, and I think that's exactly what we got. So I think that tells the rest of the AFC that, okay, even though Mahomes has been hurt and they're not putting up points like they have been, oh, hey, don't forget about the Chiefs. They're still serious. So that's what I meant, and I feel like that's what happened. Mike Hall, thanks for your donation. Appreciate it. Do Spags have the players to shut down the Pats? It's going to be a question mark, particularly Edelman's a matchup. He's a blizzard in there, man. I don't know. And the question is going to be about, can you stop Sony Michel? You have to dedicate enough to the run, but yet Sony's a fast back. So then that switches you up into matches where they sled him out to a wide receiver slot. Now puts you at a severe disadvantage. If they run dual backs, that puts you in some problem places with Sony Michel. So that's going to be the question. The linebackers, I think, are going to tell the tale here, but that's all predisposed on stopping Edelman, or at least containing him. Dwight Raleigh, do you think Kelce needs help with another tight end? I do think that they need in the offseason to get a better backup. I think Kelce's beat up a little bit physically. I don't think he's 100%, and I think that's his big problem. What does it take? I'm sorry, BK Confidential. What does it take for the Chiefs to have a bye in the playoffs? It means they have to get to the number 2 seed, which means the Bills and the Texans have to lose a game and the Chiefs have to win out, or the Ravens have to lose 2 games and the Chiefs have to win out, or all 3 of those things. So it's a tough road to hoe to get up to the 2. It is still mathematically possible, but I don't think that that's really in the cards right now. Good question. KC Sports Report, why are you pitching your own videos in my chat? Let's be a little bit nicer in here. Scott Mazer, the Chiefs a sleeper for the AFC. Yes, they're definitely a sleeper. They're being overlooked right now. I think that's how I feel basically about the national media as well as the fan bases. Firefighter Farmer, what kind of back is McGuire? I love the show. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. McGuire's a bit of a well-rounded guy, not super huge. I honestly didn't do a ton on him, but I think he's got more speed than he gives off, or that most people consider him with. I think he'd be interesting in this offense, so I can see why they brought him in. I just feel like they kind of brought him in to stash him, and now they might be forced into using him earlier than they expected to. So we'll just have to see how it works out. Let's see. Oh, I didn't skip you. I think I got your question, but if I missed it, let's go back. I think I got it. No, I only see one. I think I answered it. So if not, Anita, hit me again here at the bottom and I'll get caught up to it. Scott, I talked about the O-line. Aaron, I'm most worried about Reader. What is your argument between Irving taking over instead of Wisniewski? I like Irving better than Wiz. Was hiking it too hard, I thought. Maybe. I don't know. I don't think Irvin plays with a low enough center of gravity. I think he's better at guard. I don't think he can play center and be effective. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. I think Wiz can do both. Adam Daughtry, if Andy's forced not to ride with his players, what change would he do? Ooh, that's a good question. I think you're going to see him go opposite. And if he can't have the guys that he needs, I think you're going to see him go 5 wide and try to throw it all over him by stressing what is a very good secondary. But still, if you overload them with patterns in the same zones that they're trying to play, and they will play man, if you get that, then you get to try to get Mecole and Tyreek off the press and get them gone. So there's options in both ways. Brian Beck, who are most surprised by their progress so far this season? Honestly, Mecole Hardman playing wide receiver in this Chiefs offense is a tall order, man. I think he's coming along. I'm not sure what's happened the last few weeks, but I feel like he knows where he's supposed to be, and I think that's probably the biggest obstacle to a wide receiver coming into this offense with Andy Reid. Dan Thompson, do you see a pattern with Mahomes to this point having problems when the stage gets larger? Yeah, I've had that pointed out, and I can see that a little bit, but I do think it's circumstantial about who those big games are against, too, so I won't say that it's anything in particular. That's just my initial thought. I don't know. No, I'm not going to say that it's a pattern yet. If it continues, maybe, but he's also come back in big games too, so I don't think that that's going to be what it ends up being. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. Let's see who's next. I want to make sure that I hit Anita's question. I'm going to search for her real quick. Yep, Anita, I answered your Williams questions. I answered your Pinnell questions. I think we're good. Okay, just double checking. Let's see. Oh, Jerry Pratt, you like the breakdowns on the films. Thanks, I appreciate that. I'm trying to kind of mix it up and find what formula works best. So I appreciate you letting me know that. And if you guys have opinions on the pre-recorded stuff, especially the film reviews, let me know what you think. Let's see. William Schmidt. Has Mahomes lost faith in Watkins? I saw a few plays where Watkins was open, but because Kelce Hill weren't, that he bailed the pocket. That's a fair point. I don't think that it's a loss of faith. He went to him a couple times. One was a duck that I think it did get intercepted, actually. I think part of that was the weather. I don't think that he's lost faith. I think I think he's got Favre syndrome. He's looking for big plays. He's looking for chunks. And a lot of what they have Sammy do is not the deep stuff. It's underneath, it's crossers, that kind of thing. So I think that's more of a function of what the route designs are than not having faith in Sammy. I think Sammy, for the most part, has proven that he deserves to have Mahomes' trust. Scott Kreider, how are you? What are if we beat the Pats and we win out? And would that give us home field advantage? You cannot get home field when they say home field advantage, that means that you would always play at home. The Chiefs can't get that unless they win out and the Ravens lose 2 games. I don't see that happening. But they can have the next best thing and host the divisional game. The AFC Championship, they'd have to go to Baltimore, but they can host the divisional game if the Texans and Bills and Patriots lose a game. So they can do that for themselves here by beating the Patriots. You still have to have the Bills lose again, and you have to have the Texans lose again. So that's a tough one to get all those things to come together. Questions. Because Jerry Pratt. That same one. Thanks, Jerry. Do you think we can get more? Yeah, I mean, I can try to break them up, but quite frankly, the film reviews take a lot of time, Jerry. So I try to put them all into one. I can try to break them up and get some more plays, but let me see what I can do for you. And if you guys will watch them, I'll make them. That's the big thing. So, yeah, I will try to get it done. Drew Bishop, Frank Clark was quiet when he came out. Is he hurt? Was he hurt early? He needed another big game. I don't know when that injury happened. That's a good question. So, maybe we'll get more information on that when we find out about the injury. I'm not sure. So I wish I could tell you, but I don't have a good answer. Aaron Morrow, what about having Thornhill spying Edelman instead of a double team, just like they keep an eye out? That's okay, but Thornhill can't keep up with Edelman in the cuts. Thornhill has good downfield speed, but in terms of pivot routes, cut routes, He doesn't change direction nearly as well as Julian Edelman. Edelman's got the third best score in short area quickness that I've ever done in the athletic matrix. Tyreek Hill is one of the few that's better. So I think it's more effective to bracket him with a double team than it is to actually just try to cover him with one good player. And quite frankly, to do it effectively, you'd have to pull Thornhill down to the line of scrimmage, and that's not where he plays best. He needs to be a center fielder at the back. That's where he can really affect the game the most. Justin Troba, with Clark out and Travis not 100%, do you still think we can beat the Pats? We don't know if Clark's out, but I do agree that I don't think Travis is 100%. But yeah, I do think they can. I don't think the key is, can the offense not give the ball up? Turnovers. The defense is stronger than the Pats offense is. I feel like as long as Pat can get back to scoring, if they can put up 28 plus points on offense, I think they can win this game. Max KC1, double up Edelman. Yeah, hey, I'm totally with you. Morbian 13, last season the Pats got down the field with quick passes until they got in the red zone. Do you think they repeat that? I don't know if they will. I don't think that he has the reliability of the receivers this year. He looks really frustrated. So that's kind of where I'm coming from, but I'm not 100%. They may see them try to do that again, but I think the linebackers are better. So, we'll see what happens. All right, I'm going to speed through these. We hit an hour, and this is usually where my mic cuts out. So, hey, I appreciate you guys hanging in. And for everybody new, appreciate you guys being here too. Check out the pre-recorded stuff that'll be out later in the week. Let's see. Do the Patriots try to make Ward look bad next Sunday? Yes, Scott. I think they will target Ward, and I think they'll go after him as much as they can. Whether that's with shifts so they can get matchups, I'm not sure. But I do think so. Trovo, what do you think? Justin Trovo, what do you think the score will be next week? I'm thinking 28-21 Chiefs. I haven't gotten there yet. I got to look at the film, but I'm thinking it's going to be closer. I think it's going to be less than a 7-point game, and I think the Chiefs do get over 30. Scott Meza, who will be the biggest test for the Chiefs? The defense or Pat on next Sunday? I think it's going to be Pat, because I think they're really going to be scheming him up. KC69 LC, is Kelce out of shape, or is he just getting older? I think he's hurt up. I think he's dinged up. I think the ankle surgery in the offseason slowed him to begin, and I think he's been beat up a little bit this season. Let's see. Cody Irwin, how do you get your hands on the All-22 film? It's a paid service from the NFL called Game Pass. That's how you get it. I don't get all the cut-ups that the teams get, but you get the basic All-22, the end zone, and the wide view. Norman Schreck, they say that the Ravens are using someone that knows analytics. Do you think the Chiefs are going to go that way in the future? They already do. His name's Mike Frazier. He's the Chiefs analytics coordinator, and he does a great job. They are specific, or from my understanding, they are specific in that they use analytics in terms of play call, tendencies, on-field stuff. I'd like to see them expand that. I'd like to work for the Chiefs. My analytics are all about the draft and athleticism. So there are a number of different areas within analytics that you can use. Some are predictive, some are just analytical. But Mike Frazier does a hell of a job from the reputation that he has. Cole Keeler, do you think Darwin Thompson can be included in the offense more? Yeah, I think some. It depends on the injuries. Scott Meza, is Sorensen better in the nickel or dime or as a 4-3 solid scheme? He is not a 4-3 guy. I think he's best in the dime, but they're using him as a nickel linebacker, which I think is not really playing to his strength so much. I think he gets beat up in there. I'd like to see him more in space to begin with. Chiefs fan in Oregon, Thornhill and Badger gelling into one of the league's best safety teams. They could be. They're not there yet, but they're on their way. Then a rocker, do you think Thornhill's pick 6 against Carr? I think it was instinctual. I think they did a good job. I think it showed that he studied real well, too. So, all right, let's see. Who's down here that I haven't answered? CJ Dial, has our offense been looking a little flat to you? Patrick Mahomes hasn't been picking up Patrick Mahomes' numbers the past few games. That's true. But I do feel like teams are playing him over the top, and he's taking what's underneath. So I think it's a smarter Pat Mahomes is what we're seeing. Rick, buddy, how are you? Appreciate the donation, but I don't see a question, bud, so throw one in there. Chris Kesey, how are you? Good evening. Do you think Andy's holding off on some of the gadget plays? Yes, I do think you can call it sandbagging or just holding something in reserve, but yeah, I do think he is. Rick, buddy, there's your question. Will the Chiefs be able to slow down the Patriots running game? I think they will, but they have to dedicate the resources of Ragland, Saunders, and Pennell to be on the field a good bit, at least 20 snaps apiece, and I think they can get it done. Let's see. Mike Hall, do you think the Reed will run a different style offense against the Patriots, like 3-4 players in the backfield with Mahomes? No, I don't think he'll go that crazy, but I think you'll see some more of the misdirection plays, not necessarily gadgets. I think you'll see more jet sweep. I think you'll see some interior stuff, maybe with Kelce. And I do think that you're going to see just some really creative screens. I think that's a good way to get on the Patriots. Adam Daughtry, thanks, buddy. Oh, that's not even a question. Well, I appreciate you being here. Thanks for the donation, pal. John Smith, is Darwin Thompson likely having problems with pass protections or the playbook? Even if the backfield's banged up, he repeatedly gets minimal playtime. Yeah, I think it's a bit of both. That's the story of being a rookie in this offense. I don't think it's anything to be worried about. He'll be fine next year. Damian McKinnis, do you think Watkins will take a pay cut and stay with the Chiefs? That's a good question. That's exactly what I think they're going to want him to do. I just don't know if he'll go for it. Keith Welch, it seems the Pats' accuracy has dropped off some lately. What's your thoughts? I agree with you, and I'm not sure what it's from. I think his body, though it's healing and his knee looks okay and he can run, I don't think it feels naturally back to 100%. I think that might be part of it. Just a guess on my part. I don't have any info on that. All right, we're going to wrap it up here, folks. Looks like the last big question mark is here. So the last question of the session is Justin Rhodes. What keeps Dorian O'Daniel off the field? Is this his final season with the Chiefs? No, I believe he's under contract next season, so I don't think that's going to be a problem. And honestly, I think that to Spags, he doesn't play the run well enough because he's not truly in a linebacker body. He's a hybrid, and I think he's got to play a safety role more. I think they're going to part from Dan Sorensen this offseason. I think that's when you might be able to see Dorian step into that kind of role as a nickel linebacker. So, yeah, I think there's still some stuff ahead for him. And one more. Aaron Morrow, since you threw one there at the very end. Drew Lock thoughts. Does he give us trouble later in the season or further out in his career? I don't think you have to worry about him now. We'll see what he does in the offseason. I think it's a really interesting thing for the Broncos. The Chiefs will deal with him for a while, but I'm not too scared. So anyway, that's it for me tonight. For all you new people, I'm glad you were here. For all of you old hands, thanks for the donations. I appreciate it. I'll be back with some more video work, film work midweek, and then the game plan on Friday. So you all have a good one. Check out the podcast. I'll talk to you next time.